guys. Just between us, all right?
Chatting today all about some dating tips, how to make that great impression on a date. Also, do men really need help with dating? 7 sins we all commit on dates, and how to create great chemistry between men and women. My two guests today waiting to weigh in. Dating coaches Gate and Kyo, both from ModernMan Academy, are here to help us out. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Angela.
Let's talk a little bit about the whole idea of having a school for men to learn how to date. I mean, do Singaporean men really need to learn this?
Well, my question right back to you, Angela, would be, have you gone on a date with a guy and he's done all the wrong things?
I wouldn't say all the wrong things, but there are certain things that sometimes, people might not be mindful of, or it might be a personal peeve sometimes, so it's hard to say. Yeah.
Right. Like, he keeps trying to talk about his job and how well paid he is.
Yeah.
And it's like he's got a lot of things going on in his life, and he doesn't really seem so interested in your life. He's talking about himself all the time.
Yeah.
Kind of try hard.
Right. I think that's a big, thing to zoom in on. Let's ask Gate a little bit on this as well. What are some of the common complaints you hear from your female friends, or, even your clients themselves who have personal fears or insecurities about their ability to attract women? What are some of these things?
Right, one of the mistakes that I realize guys make is trying to buy a female affection, right? Because for a guy who's very successful in their own career, right, they tend to want to try to buy the female affection.
Right.
By, that's, for example, if they're going out on a date, they try to, let's say they see this really cute band, it's like, it reminds me of you and I just got to get it for you.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times, whenever you're trying to buy the female affection, you tend to, a lot of times, it doesn't end up well. And when I was hanging out with a lot of my female friends, they always told me, I was with this guy, he's just really sweet at the start. And when I met him, and when we got into a relationship, he stopped doing all this nice stuff, he stopped doing all this sweet stuff he did for me at the start.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of guys, they make the mistakes, they start off at the wrong path. I think buying things, being sweet, doing all this romance stuff for women is great. But I think it's great in a relationship, not during the courtship, the first few stages of courtship of the interactions.
Right, that's an interesting idea, because a lot of men feel that, okay, if I really like this girl, I have to bring out the big guns, find a nice restaurant, really go all out to impress her. You guys are saying, no, don't do that.
Yeah, we don't do that.
So what do we do then? For the men who are like, okay, then what else? How do I show that I'm going to be able to provide for you, I'm going to be able to take good care of you, and be able to basically be reliable, right? How do I show that without, I guess, like what you say, Gate, buying affection?
I guess a lot of guys try really hard, and they take girls out on very conventional stuff because it's all Hollywood based, and this is what they see on movies, and this is what everybody else is doing. But then again, this is what everybody else is doing, but doesn't work. But nobody figures out that it's not working, right? So really what we do on a different spectrum of things is we don't try to go and buy her stuff. It's not to say that we cannot afford it, but that's not really what girls want right off the bat. If you're not a fun guy to begin with, like, that's what they call the chemistry.
Yeah.
Right? Girls are always talking about, there's this chemistry, there's no chemistry between us. That's probably because the guy was a boring guy.
Yeah.
Right.
In the most cliched way, I suppose if you want a girl to be attracted to your money or the things you can offer her, then a surefire way to get her attention is to buy her things, right? But if you want her to really appreciate who you are, regardless of how much money or things you have, the best way to do it would be to really make an effort to improve yourself, I suppose.
Right.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the concerns that a lot of your clients have. I understand you actually have really successful clients who come to you saying,
"That's right.
I find it very hard to talk to women." That is really quite difficult to imagine, because you would think that people who are very successful, have achieved a lot, are actually really confident. Is that necessarily true?
A lot of times with people who are very successful in their own careers, they actually neglect their social life. They actually stop going out. Most of the time they spend their time at work and 9 to 10, 9 to 5. Some of them even work till really, really late, and they don't have time to go out there and socialize. And because of this, their social life is neglected. And if your social life is neglected, right, it's hard for you. Whenever you are interacting with women, she can sense it. You are not assured of yourself. You are not, you're not comfortable with who you are. When you're talking to her, you are trying to do all these things, try to buy her affection, which is not a good thing, and it's not going to end up well. Because first and foremost, let's always remember, you are not the only guy buying her flowers. You're not the only guy buying her gifts.
Yeah, that's true.
Buying her, bringing her to fancy food dinner. You are not the only one guy. All right. We as guys, we always like to think what we do, we are unique. All right. A lot of times it's not true. That pickup line of yours, it's not very unique. What you do is not very unique. Because I always told all my clients, success with women is a lot of times learning to become a better person. Learning social dynamics, understanding female psychology, and a lot of times these guys, they don't understand it, and because they don't, they make a lot of the mistakes, like trying to buy affections, being too much of a nice guy. They stop taking the lead. Yes, in their own career, they might be very confident, very assured themselves, and I met a lot of people in my own career, but when it comes to female interaction, a lot of them are very lacking in that way.
Right. Where do they usually fall short, you think? I mean, we're also talking to, I guess, every person, not just men, right? We're talking about women as well, who feel very, it's really difficult to connect with another person. What's usually the issue, apart from wanting to overcompensate? Is it a confidence thing, or is it that they somehow lack the ability to interest the other party?
This is stuff that really isn't taught in schools.
They should be, though.
Right? It really should be taught in school, but it isn't. It's just like financial literacy and how good you are. It's not just about the numbers. So a lot of guys go through the usual routine. Like in overall our website, we do mention how the SOP, the standard operating procedure of how a guy actually tries to chase and court a girl.
Right.
Well, share that with us. Let's see if the ladies can relate to this.
Okay. So a lot of guys usually meet girls not by just walking straight up on the street and saying, "Hey, I really like you. What's your name? By the way, I am whatever so and so." But they meet them through social circles. Right, and a lot of times maybe the social circle isn't that big or widened or fantastic in the first place, so they settle for whatever comes their way, and they try really hard to start too fast, too soon, too deep, and they start saying all the mushy things, or they start texting her too much, showing her too much approval, trying to put her on the pedestal, and not seeing her as an equal. She's just seeing her like she's like higher than me, and I need to gain her approval. I need to do all that kind of stuff to really get her to like me. That's like they feel they're lacking.
Is it about not perceiving the options that are available because you're looking at simply what's around you? You're not thinking, hey, actually, I can meet a lot more people if I'm a bit more proactive, if I go out of my way. So we're going to find out a bit more about how exactly we can create rapport. Also a little bit more about chemistry, this mysterious thing that everyone tries to achieve, but it really is quite elusive. Also, the 7 things that men and women, the 7 sins that they commit on dates as well. All this coming up from dating coaches Gate and Kyo, both from ModernMan Academy. All that on Between Us. Stay tuned.
Reset your relationships in Between Us. Our soulful encounter is always just between us on 938 Live.
We're chatting today all about how to be a good date. Really, dating coaches Gate and Kyo from ModernMan Academy are sharing how we all make mistakes on dates and how to create chemistry, more importantly. All this coming up in a moment. But first, let's get a little bit to the part where earlier, Kyo, you were talking a bit about how men only, or women sometimes as well, date within their social circle. So that really limits your options of meeting someone who's very suitable for you.
Exactly.
How can they then approach people? Or do you really go on the street and just approach random women?
In Singapore context, that'll be like weird.
Yeah, I would say that from personal experience as well. But it depends on the approach, because I have had really creepy people come up to you. It's really freaked me out, right? There are ways of doing it. Tell us a bit about how to approach women.
Well, I think in modern society, a lot of movies like Hugh Grant moment, that serendipity thing.
Yes.
All the women want to, I want to be approached by a guy the right way.
They call it the meet cute, I believe. The idea of a cute meeting where it's perfect in Hollywood, like.
Exactly. Well, these are scenarios that can be recreated. It's just that if the guy does it the right way, because if the guy comes out the wrong way, we have clients coming to us and said, "Oh, I tried approaching girls on the street, and our first question is, what do you say to them?"
Right?
And they're like, "Oh, I just go and say, hi, can I get your number?"
Oh dear, really?
I mean, come on, guys. Do you expect to go up to a girl and say, "Hey, I think I really like you. Will you marry me?"
Oh my gosh. Okay, so obviously then that's going to be a highly possible rejection.
Yeah,
right
it's like almost a definite no.
Right. Do you find that also it kind of perpetuates itself when you get a lot of rejections? You start getting even more desperate to come up with new ways to impress people, and then it just kind of spirals downward. So tell us a bit about what's a good way to approach people. What's a good way for men to kind of make an impression, but at the same time not come on too strong?
Not come on too strong, right? One of the stuff that we actually advise or we coach men to do is to really go to talk to people on the streets. That is a one very direct way to build confidence step by step. Because if you're asking us how they step out of their current social circle, some of them really have no idea, right? So when they come under our wing and our guidance, that's what we tell them to do. So one of the very simple approach that everybody does, really everybody has done in their lifetime at least once or 5 times, maybe 10s, it would be like, hey, do you know where this place is?
Icebreaker right there, right? Because you sort of, there's no agenda, there's no personal agenda.
Right,
the person's guard is let down.
It's safe, right? So if I were to come up to you, Angela, while you were walking the street and say, hey, do you know where the ATM is, the nearest ATM?
Yeah. I'd be pretty open to helping, right?
Exactly. You won't be like, hey, loser, don't talk to me. You're a creep, you're weird, That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right? But then again, a lot of guys will be like, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying, but what next?
Yeah. How do you turn into something romantic from where do I get to the ATM?
Right. I like the look where you're giving me. I'm like, okay, I want to find out too. Well, guys, there's always this phrase called "by the way." Right. This is the transition phrase that saves your skin.
Yeah.
Because if I were to come up to you and say, hey, do you know where the nearest ATM is? And you tell me it's over there. Right, I can go, thank you very much. By the way, I think you have a really great dress sense, right? And I like that. Right?
Okay, so that's actually quite genuine, quite natural, right? It's not like you're trying too hard.
I'm not trying too hard.
Yeah, but paying compliments as well, I think that's another thing. It's an art in itself, right? You don't want to come off as too weird. You're trying too hard or saying things that are a bit inappropriate. We'll get to all that in just a bit. Also, more on how to create chemistry. If you're on a date or you're trying to approach someone, you actually can learn that. Also, 7 mistakes that men and women make on dates. All this coming up with my 2 guests, dating coaches Gate and Kyo from ModernMan Academy. Stay tuned.
Man is a knot into which relationships are tied, but nothing comes between us. On 938 Live. Just between us, alright?
Dating coaches Gate and Kyo, both from ModernMan Academy, telling us more about how to create chemistry on a date. Also, the mistakes that people tend to make while on these dates or while approaching members of the opposite sex. Guys, what are some of the common things that you notice? Sometimes you go out with your clients, you watch them interact with women. What are some of the things that they tend to do wrong in your eyes?
They get really nervous at the start. You can't blame them because
it's normal though, right?
Yeah, it's the first time they've done this maybe in the first 25 or 35 years in their life. They've never really gone out on the street just to go and say hi. Can I do something, whatever, some kind of a direction opener or what. They're just not used to that. So it's unnatural for them.
Okay.
They get really nervous and the body language shows it. Recently we just had one guy that I literally had to push his back all the way to get to this girl to where the girl was at the MRT station, so I had to push him all the way there. Then he would just walk in naturally. But the way he approached the girl, kind of saw it from the side of the eyes, from the side, and I was like, there's this weird vibe coming across, and she just moved away before he even said anything.
Right. Okay, so the approach, of course, is really, really important. You want to approach with confidence and with purpose.
But this takes practice as well.
Okay, so anything you'd like to add, Gate?
One of the things I would like to add on is I always emphasize on guys to be congruent and to be authentic. What do I mean by that? For example, if you're very, very nervous, you don't want to go in there and try to pretend to be confident. Of course, at the start, you need to fake it till you make it, but you don't want to become very try-hard. So if let's say you're interacting with women, right, and you are very nervous, you are very shy, it's all right. Just let them know, say, hey, I know this is really weird, and I just got to come over and say, you look cute in that dress of yours, or whatever you find interesting with her. You could say it, but you don't have to try to pretend to be confident or not. One thing, you want to be congruent and authentic with yourself, because whenever you're not doing that, women can sense it. And when they sense it, it's not a great thing. So if you're feeling nervous, just let them know, I'm kind of actually really shy, but I just want to come up and say hi. And that's a lot better than trying to be very try hard or trying to use any pickup lines or any weird things to say to a girl. Because once it's not being congruent, it comes off a very weird vibe.
Yeah, there's
Makes
a conflict
sense,
there, right? And yeah, I think that's pretty much true. I find it very endearing if someone's very in tune with his or her flaws, right? And saying that, hey, you know, this is how it is, but I'm genuinely sincere about getting to know you. That's quite a good thing. In the case where, I mean, for the men out there who are listening now, women as well, who are really shy, and, you know, for them, going up to a stranger and just starting a conversation is really quite difficult. And then, of course, as you mentioned as well, you have to be authentic. That's a very, very tough thing to navigate. Any tips for listeners, you know, who might be encountering this problem?
Now, the first thing I always tell all my guys is it's always better to be interested than to be interesting, right? What do I mean by that? Most guys, whenever they go up and interact with a woman, they are always very try hard. It's always about me, trying to prove
impress
themselves,
you, right?
Of course, it's great to be interesting. You know, if you are a very boring guy, it's not going to get the job done, right? But it's more important to be interested, whereby, what do I mean by that? You listen to her, right? Let's say you're having a conversation. Of course, the first 5 minutes, you have to be the one doing the conversation most of the time, right? But after that, you want to really listen to her and have her start talking and getting to know her, all right? Because if you're not, a lot of guys ask me, what do I talk to a girl? What do I say? You see, when you're so focused on that, you're actually not listening already, right? And when you don't listen, it's very hard for you to talk about it, because you know, in your head you are thinking about what's my next pickup line, what's my next things to do, right? If you just take a deep breath and just look at her and just listen, right? And how do you get a conversation going? Very simply, because just by asking questions, you know. Of course, a lot of guys will always say you don't want to ask a lot of questions, right? But most guys, they do it the wrong way. You want to ask a question, you want to relate, you want to personalize it. Right, that's how you get a conversation going. Another way, you could also start by making statements, which is a great thing. Like you could start off by saying, "Hey, you seems like someone who travels a lot, right? Do you?" You know, that's a great way to start to get a conversation going. But always very, very important. Always listen, and eye contact, body language. Eye contact is so important. Most guys, whenever they are interacting with women, the eye contact is not there, and you can tell a mile away that they are thinking like, "What's my next pickup line?" Or they are not fully interested in the
especially
conversation.
if the member of the opposite sex is really attractive, then it gets really hard to keep your eye on them. So I mean, in that sense, because you say, you know, a lot of it's really about being present, and when you're listening, you're naturally interested. You very easily find the next question to ask, rather than at the back of your mind, you know, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to ask her? Let's talk a little bit about maybe another, you know, last thing that you guys notice when guys approach women, things that they do that women are turned off by, or even the other way around, right? That women sometimes, you know, commit in terms of mistakes. Anything that you guys have that are peeves?
Maybe something for the women who are listening. Because sometimes girls can also be the try hard ones, because they don't think that they're enough.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
It goes both ways, right? So guys, don't feel like you're alone in this. There are women out there who feel the same way, right? So they'll do stuff like they'll try to be too touchy. Right? Especially because it's the same for women. When guys are too touchy and the guy doesn't seem like he's gonna be interested in this girl, it's going to be a major turn off. So some girls do, you know, start touching the guy a little bit too much, like too eager. Or some guys will like just place their hands all over the girl, like on the shoulder, on the elbow, and then go too far, too much, and they leave their hand there for too long. It's just completely awkward.
Right. So it's really about, again, being comfortable, not trying too hard. I think when you try too hard, people tend to think, there's this air of desperation around you, and then no one wants to be around that. We're going to find out in the last segment that's coming up in just a bit how to create chemistry. We've learned a lot about what not to do for ladies and the men, but let's learn about chemistry in just a bit from my two guests today, Gate and Kyo, both dating coaches from Modern Man Academy. Stay tuned.
Reset your relationships in Between Us. Our soulful encounter is always just between us on 938 Live.
Thanks for staying tuned to Between Us at 938 Live, talking all about how to create chemistry on a date and how to be attractive to members of the opposite sex. Dating coaches Gate and Q from ModernMan Academy here to tell us more. Guys, we're talking about what not to do on dates. So that's pretty clear for now.
Right.
Let's talk a bit more about how then to create chemistry. Some people say chemistry is something that's, serendipitous. It's something that comes across by chance and luck. But really, you can actually create rapport by doing and saying certain things. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I believe that there's nature and nurture part of it, and it's like a skill set that you can actually learn to engineer certain things. I wouldn't say, I don't want to put it across like engineer. It sounds too weird, but in a way, everything can be engineered. Like in the media, you see how they create the angle, the shot that they take makes the picture look different, or makes like the crowd looks more than they should.
Right. So you can cultivate chemistry in that.
Yeah,
sense,
you can learn. Guys and girls can learn to cultivate that chemistry. It also is different depending on the situation, where if you just met her or you've known her for a while. So these are entirely different scenarios.
Okay. Tell us a bit more about how to create that sense of chemistry. Is it about similarities? Is it about common interests? Like how would you say, or what would you say underlies that interaction with a lot of chemistry?
Okay, maybe I'll just give quick examples for if you just met a girl versus you know someone for a while. So if let's say I just met someone, and let's say I came up to you and say, hey, do you know where the ATM is? And coming back to
that's becoming a hot favorite pickup line.
That might become the next pickup line.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll say like, do you know where the nearest ATM is? And you tell me where it is, and I say, hey, thanks. By the way, I really like your dress sense. It's really cool like that, right? And you say thank you. So I say, my name is Kyo. By the way, you are right. And after that, I can go, oh, by the way, just a quick question, does this jacket make me look gay?
Okay, there you've got laugh from the girl, right? So she's obviously a little bit, lightened up a little bit.
Lightened up, right? Yeah. Then I'll say, the reason I'm asking is because just now I walked past a couple of guys and they were giving me this look. Yeah. I wasn't sure it was the right look. You know what I mean? That kind of look. So, yeah.
So you kind of lead on from there. I think humor is a very big thing to inject into a light conversation.
Right. If you ask a woman, and the first thing they'll say, oh, I want a guy who's humorous.
Yeah, that's true though.
They always say that. I want a guy who's confident, he's humorous, he's mature, and he's like traveled the world.
Worldly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a bit then about, other ways that we can cultivate the chemistry, and maybe Gate can share some with us.
One of the things is, before you want to cultivate chemistry, one of the main things is you want to cultivate confidence, right? Because if you don't cultivate confidence first, it's very hard for you to build chemistry, right? How do you build chemistry? One of the things that Kyo mentioned is being fun, right? Being playful, being teasing. There's one of the great ways to create chemistry with someone, right? Another way is what we call rapport building. It's because one thing is, let's say for example, you do what Kyo mentioned, which is just being fun, being very light-hearted. Another thing is, forwards by that, you want to start building rapport. And how do you build rapport is by simply, sharing, you could be sharing your passions, you could be sharing your ambitions, whatever that really interests you, right? Because at the end of the day, the women want to find out what you find interesting, right? So, for example, if you're a very boring guy, you want to start getting an interesting life, right? So you could start sharing about your passion. What do you enjoy doing in the weekends? What do you like to do? So, because when you have a passion, when you have something that you are going for, it makes you much more attractive compared to the other guys, right?
For men and women as well, I find, even in general, when you're getting to know new people, it's always very, very fascinating to find someone who's, truly interested, truly loving life, so to speak. Right. Now, on a final note, guys, if each of you was to kind of give our listeners a takeaway from all years of experience, talking to men and talking to men who come forward, or women as well, sometimes come forward with fears, and I guess fears of rejection sometimes. What's something that you think has been really important to you as you kind of evolve over the years, meeting people from the opposite sex as well? Maybe Kyo, you can start.
Okay, for me, I don't know if my buddies are listening. Okay, I feel bad, but many years ago, I felt that if I wanted to change my life, I couldn't hang around the same friends. Reason is because not that I'm selfish, but my friends didn't want to upgrade and improve their lives, right? So I have to step out of my comfort zone and step up to change things. But of course, I still keep in touch with them. Not to say that they have never improved their lives, but not in the direction that I wanted. So if I have to go a certain way, we have to part ways at a certain point.
It's not about leaving old friends behind. It's also about, kind of keeping that with you, but going forward, the vision of what you want to be is also very important. How about you, Agate?
Right. I always tell all my clients this, that in order for you to get good, you have to take the first step, which is taking action, right? Because most guys, they do not take action, and it's a very sad thing, right? Look at the fact that everybody want to be successful women, everybody want to get a girlfriend, everybody want to be a millionaire, but not many of us actually go out there, take action, and really learn this, right? Because success with women is something that you can learn, you can cultivate, right? But whether are you willing to drop the ego and go out there and take action? And by taking action, by could be, starting with baby steps. One of the things which Kyo mentioned early on is going out, asking directions, or if you don't, but so
where
forth,
ATMs are.
right? Exactly. But let's say if you're a confident person, you're slightly more confident, you could just simply just go up, just say, hey, I know this is really weird, and I just got to come over and say you look, cute in that dress, or whatever you find interesting. You start by taking baby steps, and start taking actions, because if you don't take actions, you're not going to go anywhere. All right.
So the desire to improve is really, really important. And once you have all that, the information that you can also get as well. If you want to find out more, there are a lot of very interesting articles and blog posts that the two of them put up on their website. More information on www.modernman.sg. That's www.modernman.sg. We've been chatting with dating coaches today, Gate and Kyo from Modern Man Academy, about how to be someone who can create a lot of chemistry and attraction with the people around them. Gate, Kyo, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you so much.
Man is a knot into which relationships are tied, but nothing comes between us. On 938 Live.
And now, the LTA traffic news on 938 Live.
Going to the roads, and we are seeing congestion being caused by an accident.